I wish people would just keep politics out of movies. Things were fine until Hollywood started making movies political a few years back. Not every film has to have a point. If you found yourself saying any of these things, you probably haven't realised that movies have always been political, and this video may not be for you. I was actually going to title this video How the Hunger Games Prepared Us for 2020. Someone had to step up and speak about how close these films are to the real world right now. So I volunteer as tribute.
Did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
The Hunger Games is a series of movies consisting of the original 2012 film followed by Catching Fire and Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, the first being directed by Gary Ross and then the following three by Francis Lawrence. They tell the story of a young girl bringing down a tyrannical fascist government through the use of civil disobedience, organised protests, a message of hope and eventual civil war, because you don't topple dictators by asking nicely. At the very beginning we're given a bit of background and some world building. A fight to the death between 24 children, 2 from each of the 12 districts of Panem, as punishment for the uprising 74 years ago, in which the capital fought off rebels attempting to overthrow the government. Straight away we're presented with our two polar opposite worlds. Game maker Seneca Crane being interviewed by Caesar Flickerman in the Capitol about how the Hunger Games have grown from a punishment into a beloved form of entertainment.
But I think it has grown from that. I think it's something that knits us all together.
This is your third year as game maker. What defines your personal signature?
And then cut to the reality of a young girl screaming because she might be the one chosen to fight. This child is Primrose Everdeen, Katniss's younger sister. We see the house that they live in their small mining community, and Katniss going beyond the fence to hunt. Like I said, this is reality, and isn't that what we just love to see? Gale and Katniss spell it out perfectly.
What if they did? Just 1 year. What if everyone just stopped watching?
They won't, Gale.
What if they did? What if we did?
It won't happen.
You root for your favorites, you cry when they get killed. It's sick.
No one is going to stop watching. For the people in the capital, it's a chance to see people from outside their bubble, provide them with entertainment by becoming the animals they've always assumed they are. For the people in the districts, they watch because they feel they have to and because there's nothing else. Reality TV, presenting the harshest form of reality, where death might be preferable because the price of winning is a lifetime of nightmares, guilt, PTSD, pretending that you're happy and becoming a commodity of the public as they literally buy and sell you.
From now on, your job is to be a distraction, so people forget what the real problems are.
Pretty accurate depiction of the real world of celebrity. I have no doubt in my mind that if tomorrow it was announced that as punishment for the widespread protest and civil disobedience, people would be selected to fight to the death, there would be a large percentage of the population celebrating it as justice and a great idea. Articles would be written about how they had it coming for causing trouble, news channels would welcome it as strong leadership, and social media would fall in line with the propaganda. In fact, while I'm talking about propaganda, we have this video shown to the potential tributes, telling them how great their authoritarian government is, and how much they've done for them, while armed peacekeepers, who are supposed to police the districts, stand ready to beat anybody who steps out of line to death. History is written by the winners, and the world is whatever those in charge say it is. As in George Orwell's 1984, the party told you to reject all evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Sound familiar? Going back to reality TV, we spent so long gorging ourselves on trashy TV shows that degrade the poor, the working class, minorities, the disadvantaged, and those with actual mental and physical issues, that we aren't that far away from simply accepting a televised fight to the death. I know people who would see making prisoners compete in a battle royale as some form of justice. If you demonise people long enough, you can make the public cheer as their rights are stripped away. Complaints about torture or unsanitary conditions, unfit for rats, are met with, well, you should have thought about that before you did X. If you can go on Twitter right now and see someone justifying a man being killed for using a suspected counterfeit note, before even being found guilty no less, is it such a stretch to imagine those same people championing those that they hate killing each other as punishment for rebelling? In fact, why did you read the Hunger Games book or watch the film in the first place? Because you heard it was a story about kids being forced into an arena to kill each other. This is the premise of the story. A public that has become numb and accepting of the fact that it is happening. It's been going on for so long that it's the new normal. It can happen with anything, even forcing children into murdering each other.
It takes reality television, this culture that we live in, a media-based culture where we build people up to tear them down. It's this voyeuristic pageant that we play out in front of us, and it's only a half step into a culture where we can see this used as a political instrument, the way the Romans used the circus. You know, there's that phrase, give them bread and circuses, right? Engage them in entertainment, get them to participate, get them to play your game, and it's an instrument of political control.
So how do you break people out of this trance and get them questioning what they're seeing? Here in Britain we had a quote-unquote talk show, similar to the likes of Jerry Springer, in which the poorest and most vulnerable people in society were invited on stage, so that the audience could literally laugh at their mental illness, their physical appearance, and their problems with their loved ones. That is, until it was cancelled. One guest, tragically, took his own life after being on the show and being subjected to the ridicule that came with it. The show was pulled, reruns have never been shown, and the whole idea of shows like this were rightly labelled as bullying and degrading. A human life had to be taken to wake people up and cause them to act. They were the catalyst for change. In the Hunger Games, despite the many deaths that have occurred throughout the game's history, we get one that sparks something in the form of Rue. A young girl who wouldn't fight, who wouldn't kill, who hid and used her skills to survive long enough to meet and befriend Katniss. The death of Rue, combined with the connection the audience had formed with Katniss, created the greatest catalyst for change. Shared suffering and a single cause to rally behind. It also introduced us to something else vital for fighting back against oppressors, a symbol. Later on we see Katniss herself become the symbol, the Mockingjay, something that her stylist Cinna takes full advantage of, with her dress bursting into flames to reveal the symbol of the growing rebellion, which is subsequently sprayed and painted and etched all over Panem as a sign of opposition to the corrupt and authoritarian president. But in the beginning it started off with the three fingers salute, an old sign of respect. This was the spark. A girl mourning and showing respect for someone who was meant to be her enemy, demonstrated to every district that they're not at war with each other until they're forced to be, and reminded everyone who the real enemy is. Our martyr, as they so regularly are, is a young black child needlessly killed because those in power deemed that their life was meaningless. In fact, Katniss and Peter, on their Victor's tour in Catching Fire, make a point to say their names.
Fresh and Rue.
8 years later, here we are doing the same thing, repeating the names of the tragically deceased so that no one will forget them, in the hope that it will inspire change. There was actually backlash at the casting of Rue and Thresh and Cinna because they were black, but Susan Collins confirmed that they were meant to be. If you find yourself protesting the fact that black people were cast in prominent roles in a movie, then I implore you to watch all 4 of these films many times over, because you are exactly the type of person that needs to absorb the messages they're sending out. As these symbols take off and the opposition to those in power grows, the president becomes more and more scared of losing control and lashes out by having law enforcement beat, maim, and kill those who protest him. A man scared of losing power becomes even more dangerous, to the point where he orders that markets be burned to the ground, civilians be brutalised in the street, and even entire communities and civilian hospitals destroyed to quell any sort of insurrection.
Respect for law and order.
I think the nation needs law and order.
Each district supplies the capital, like blood to a heart. In return, the capital provides order and security.
We need healing, but we also need strength, and we need toughness, and we need law and order. We need it all, but we do need healing.
The capital is the beating heart of Panem. Nothing can survive without a heart.
We need safety in our cities, and when they don't take care of it, we took care of it in Washington, D.C.
The criminals that kneel before you use symbols for the purpose of sedition.
You have a bad group of people out there, and they're using George Floyd, and they're using a lot of other people to try and do some bad things.
Which is why all images of the Mockingjay are now forbidden.
We can do pretty much whatever we want.
But you keep on, you keep making statements, you keep reminding people of everything the president has done, and everything those that enable him have done. Even when you're threatened or attacked, you stay the course, because you'll inspire others to take up the cause. That's how you win against dictators.
Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
Effie Trinket has the greatest character development of anybody in film history, and here's why. When we first see Effie, she's gleefully pulling names out of the bowl at the reaping and mouthing the words to the propaganda video off by heart. She's so far into the culture and mindset of the Capitol that she doesn't even register that this is anything more than a game. She worries about how Katniss's actions will reflect on her. She cares more about a table than the lives of human beings.
That is mahogany.
And she is visibly excited to be involved in this murder-thon. But throughout the films, we see her start to change. And it's not one big change all at once, it's gradual. Taking in bits of information, learning to question instead of blindly following, forming attachments with those she considered beneath her.
Katniss Everdeen.
Slowly but surely, realising the humanity of others. By the end of Mockingjay Part 2, she's an entirely different woman, free from the bubble and the brainwashing she had been subject to all her life, living in the real world and forming connections with others. This is so important in a film like this because there will be people out there right now, in fact I know there is, who are going through the exact same process, shaking off that blind allegiance, listening and learning because they're no longer forcing themselves to ignore the evidence they see and hear. To see Effie, someone who is that far into a cult mentality, come out the other side and become a thoroughly decent human being without having to sacrifice her quirks or unique personality shows us that it is possible. She's still an upbeat, fashion-obsessed, witty queen, but now she's also a good person, because you don't have to entirely change who you are to change your values.
Everything old can be made new again. Like democracy.
Also, seeing as we're talking about awesome female role models, Katniss is someone who is strong, athletic, doesn't mind getting dirty or roughed up, has outdoor skills, doesn't care about being liked or looking pretty or smiling for anybody else's comfort, and whose sole focus is protecting her family despite people trying to push different guys onto her. We need more Katnisses. The last thing I want to say is this. Even when things are bad, don't forget to have fun. Don't forget to love. Don't forget to take care of yourself and others. Even in the darkest of times, there has to be room for joy and love. The Hunger Games taught us that you have to stand up and take action to protect others, that you can't stay silent when those around you are suffering, that those in power will do whatever it takes to stay there, and that ordinary people can come together and rally behind a cause to effect change. It showed us that a true revolution of values is possible if we all realise who the real enemy is. A whole generation watched these films come out and absorbed the messages they sent. They're the same people who are so proactive in rebelling against injustice and authoritarianism today. And this isn't just my opinion. Throughout 2014 and 2015, the Mockingjay symbol could be seen in the US, Hong Kong, Spain and Thailand as protesters rallied behind it. The phrase, "If we burn, you burn with us," could be found scrawled on walls by those fighting fascism and social injustice. The Hunger Games prepared us for what is happening in the world today. These films are more important now than they were when they were released.
Deep in the meadow,